Poconos are known to be a relaxing, peaceful, and even romantic place in America, but this week that is put on hold for history to take place at the Tricky Triangle, as for the first time in NASCAR Cup Series history, they will attempt a doubleheader, 2 races at the same track on the same weekend. Welcome to MDK Race Day, live from the Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode, and really the first episode in a while edition of MDK Race Day. My name is Jack Krause, and today I'm going to get you filled in on everything you need to know for Saturday's editions of NASCAR Racing, with first the Truck Series and then later on the Cup Series, and also get into some of the other stories that have been taking place around the motorsports world. So without any other issues, let's jump into it. This week's storylines begins with our first story going to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as IMS President Doug Boles and Penske Entertainment Corporation President and CEO Mark Miles announced that fans will be able to attend this year's race up to 50% capacity of the entire venue, which will equate up to roughly around 175,000 in attendance. Formula One is officially distancing itself from former CEO Bernie Ecclestone after comments he made about racism. In a statement to CNN, he said, quote, "I don't think it's going to do anything bad or good for Formula One. It'll just make people think which is more important. I think that's the same for everybody. People ought to think a little bit and think, well, what the hell? Somebody's not the same as white people, and black people should think the same about white people. In a lot of cases, black people are more racist than what white people are." Shortly thereafter those comments, Formula One followed with a statement saying, quote, "At a time when unity is needed to tackle racism and inequality, we completely disagree with Bernie Ecclestone's comments that have no place in Formula One or society," the statement read. Mr. Ecclestone has played no role in Formula One since he left our organization in 2017. His title, Chairman Emeritus, being honorific, expired in January 2020. And then not too long after, 6-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, who had been very outspoken with racism as of late, chimed in on his thoughts in a long Instagram post. He said, quote, "So sad and disappointing to read these comments. Bernie is out of the sport and a different generation, but this is exactly what is wrong. Ignorant and uneducated comments which show us how far we as a society need to go before real equality can happen. It makes complete sense to me now that nothing was said or done to make our sport more diverse, or to address the racial abuse I received throughout my career. If someone who has run the sport for decades has such a lack of understanding of the deep-rooted issues we as black people deal with every day, how can we expect all the people who work under him to understand it? It starts at the top. Now that the time has come for change, I will not stop pushing to create an inclusive future for our sport with equal opportunity for all, to create a world that provides equal opportunities for minorities. I will continue to use my voice to represent those that don't have one, and to speak for those who are unrepresented to provide an opportunity to have a chance in our sport." On to the world of NASCAR now, as they announced yesterday that Teddy Brown, a former crew chief of the number 74 team from Mike Harmon Racing Xfinity Series, had been suspended by NASCAR indefinitely due to behavioral reasons. And finally, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu has approved a comprehensive action plan to allow fans to attend the rescheduled NASCAR Cup Series Foxwoods Resort Casino 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway on Sunday, August 2nd, although it has not been said by how many fans will be allowed in attendance. Now, I want to talk about one story from our this week's storylines, and then we're going to talk about another story revolving around a certain driver. So let's first talk about the Indianapolis 500 and its attendance. Originally, at first, many people were speculating that the first race back for Indianapolis and for really NASCAR as a whole to allow at least a good amount of fans, instead of just 5,000 at Talladega, would be Indianapolis. In fact, there were some talks about having like a little YouTuber trip to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Unfortunately, that was shut down. So I'm very curious to see how IMS, Penske, and basically everyone at IndyCar is going to approach the Indianapolis 500. And I think they had to run the Indianapolis 500 with fans. I mean, you just cannot run your biggest race, not only just in IndyCar, but potentially the biggest event in Indiana. You cannot just not run it without fans. And we've seen time and time again, if you do something that pisses off Indiana fans, they will not return. Look at the 2005 USGP, 2008 Brickyard 400, and you saw the aftermath following those races. So I'm very, very happy to please and knowing that Indianapolis 500 will have fans. One thing I'm very, very, very curious and hoping that people at IMS do is lift the blackout. The blackout has always been a part of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway ever since I think television came into play to broadcasting the race. I think because there are many fans that want to be able to go to the Indianapolis 500, but more than likely will not be able to do so due to this pandemic. And I think, okay, you know what, just for if you're going to do it, at least for this one time only, lift the blackout. Let the people that aren't going to be able to have a chance to watch the race live at the racetrack, at least give them a chance to watch it on TV. So, but however, I will say this though, very curious to see what's going to happen between now and June and August, because I don't want to dive into it, but I will say the U.S. has been spiking a bit back up in terms of cases across the country. Florida is the worst, but we're not going to get into that. But right now, it looks like it's a go, but who knows? Maybe in August, it could get even better to maybe they allow it instead of just 50%, maybe 75%, who knows? Or it could get worse, and they might have to push it back even more, or something to that nature. I don't know, but these next, really till the end of the year, I mean, there's going to be a huge eye on racetracks to see, how it worked with fans. Really, Talladega was the first time we've seen fans at a racetrack, and they had it look like a pretty good procedure. If you saw from people's vlogs when they attended to the racetrack, it looked like they respected social distancing, 6 feet apart. So, but that's 5,000 people. Now you're gonna have Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which it holds, I think, more than 300,000, but still 175,000 people are going to be there, which would be the biggest gathering since this virus started and spread it across America. And now on to Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, you guys know him, one of the rising stars at NASCAR at the start of the season. He was fired by Chip Ganassi Racing after he said a racial slur in an iRacing event and was fired immediately, and almost, I guess, unofficially banished from the sport. Well, now people are starting to wonder, could Kyle Larson return to NASCAR? Now, I said this in a video right after the Kyle Larson situation. I said, if he's going to return to NASCAR, I only see one team taking him, and that is Stewart-Haas Racing. And Tony Stewart, owner of that race team, commented on Kyle Larson. And he said, in a statement I believe with Robin Miller from Racer.com, he basically flat out said he would take Kyle Larson, but things have to work out with sponsorships and things like that. Obviously, Rush Auto Parts or Rush Truck Centers, part owned by Tony Stewart, and that company owns majority of the races, or at least sponsors majority of the races of the 14 teams, so that would be covered. But you look at other races that I think a third of the season is not covered by Rush Truck Centers. How are you going to work that out with sponsorship? Clinton Boyer, this is a contract here for him, and he hasn't been running as well. He's had spotlights, he's had flashes, but he hasn't been consistently up front compared to his teammate Kevin Harvick. But that's just Tony Stewart. That's what he wants. He wants Kyle Larson back. But what does Larson himself think of returning to NASCAR? Well, in an interview he did with Dylan Welch, and I believe it was Rip the Fence or something along that of those lines, he commented and said this regarding NASCAR.
You always said that Cup Series racing was your ultimate goal. Is that still your ultimate goal?
Cup Series?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love the opportunity to get back there and race. I feel like I've got a lot left to prove there, personally and professionally. But at the same time, I'm just happy to be racing, and I'm having so much fun right now. Driving all different types of race cars, every day of the week. Kind of taking me back to 2011 and 12 when I had the most fun of my career. It's honestly been more fun than I've had in a long time, and it's just stuff that I hoped to be doing 10 years from now or more, but it's come sooner, and I'm kind of happy that I'm getting to do it at a young age and before my kids are in school or anything like that. So but yeah, I don't want to ever close the door on a NASCAR opportunity, because like I said, I feel like I've got a lot left.
So yeah, he wants to return, knowing he still has a lot left in the tank. But then you also heard him say this is the happiest he's ever been in a long time. Remember, you have to understand, he's always said dirt was number one. NASCAR was number two. When he won the Chili Bowl, he said it was the biggest win of his life, and he even said it's bigger to him than the Daytona 500. So, will he return? I believe so, but I don't expect it in a year or two. I expect quite some time. I say 3 to 4 years even before you hear Kyle Larson maybe even mention the possibility of returning to NASCAR. Because, I mean, you heard him in that interview. He said that's the happiest he's ever been in his life. But then again, he also said he's just happy to get back in a race car. So, and to be fair, I mean, he is dominating, flat out dominating. I think he won 7 or 8 in a row right now in the World of Outlaws. I mean, he is right now the king in that division. So, you know, will he return to one thing I will also say is, let's say even if he does return to NASCAR, who is going to go out and sponsor him? Because, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, forgive but never forget. That's what fans. With sponsors, that's a lot different. They look at their PR image. They look at their image before looking at you first. They think, if we partner with him, is this going to affect our image? If so, don't partner with him. And it's going to be very tough to see any sponsors right now in order to help fund Kyle Larson in the Cup Series. Maybe not so much in the World of Outlaws because it doesn't cost as much, but in the Cup Series, that's going to be very difficult. But I'm going to be keeping a close eye. I think a lot of people are going to be keeping a close eye on Kyle Larson to see if he would make his NASCAR comeback. Now on to the ARCA Racing Series. They held an event, the General Tire 150, last night at the Tricky Triangle, and it was surprisingly a much more entertaining race than Talladega. Who would have thunk it? The race was mainly between a battle between Michael Self and Ty Gibbs, both Toyotas, including an occasional Chandler Smith, and they had some pretty good battles, but ultimately in the end, Ty Gibbs just got out in front, took off, and would win the General Tire 150 for the third time in his career, for the first time this season. Ryan Blaney, who won in spectacular fashion at Talladega, edging Ricky Stenhouse Jr. by 7/1000ths of a second. He becomes the newest driver locked into the playoffs. As you take a look now at our newest update to the Cup Series standings, Kevin Harvick all the way down to Alex Bowman, 8 winners so far in 2020. They are all locked in. The highest driver without a win is Kyle Busch in the 9th spot. Johnson with 1 playoff point is 48 points above the cut line, ahead of Eric Almirola, who is 32. Teammate Clinton Boyer in the number 14 car, 23 points above the cut line, with William Byron 14 points. Matt DiBenedetto, so far, good season for him, 15th on the grid, 7 points above the cut line. And rookie Tyler Reddick, who has had an unbelievable past couple of races so far in 2020, he holds the final spot, 1 point ahead of Eric Jones. Also, Dillon number 3 car, 24 points below the cut line. Chris Buescher in the 17 truck, 40 points below the cut line. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with that great run at Talladega coming in 2nd place. He now jumps to 20th, 43 points above the cut line, but he did get a playoff win for winning stage 2. And now let's take a look at the Cup Series starting grid for the Pocono 325, again randomly selected, and the first row is covered by Mustangs. Eric Almirola from Stuart Haas Racing on the inside, and the defending winner from last week, Ryan Blaney, good 2 weeks for him, starts 2nd on the outside. Remember, he's a former winner at Pocono, winning back in the summer of 2017, beating Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. A couple of teammates in row 2, Denny Hamlin, the last winner at Pocono, and to his outside is Kyle Busch. Row 3 has Chase Elliott on the inside and Joe Logano on the outside. Those two have had a bit of scuffles so far in recent weeks, but interesting to see how they fare out on the same row near the front of the pack. Row 4 has Kurt Busch on the inside and Brad Keselowski on the outside, and running out the top 10 is Kevin Harvick and Alex Bowman. Row 6 has Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson, number 48 car, and Ryan Newman and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. from his unbelievable run at Talladega will start on the outside in row 7. Row 8 has rookie Tyler Reddick, and another Chevrolet next to him is William Byron. Row 9 has Austin Dillon and Clinton Boyer, and row 10 has Eric Jones and John Nemechek in the 38 car. Row 11 has Matt DiBenedetto in the 21 car, and Matt Kenseth, who's trying to rebound from a somewhat dismal season in the 42 car. They start in row 11. Row 12 has Bubba Wallace in the number 43 car and Chris Buescher in the 17 car. Row 13 has a pair of Fords, Cole Custer, the rookie, on the inside, and Michael McDowell, the Ford 34 car, on the outside. Brendan Poole and Joey Gase make up row 14, Corey LaJoie and Ryan Preece row 15, and row 16 has Garrett Smithley and Quinn Howell. Here's the remaining 4 rows: JJ Yaley and Ty Dillon. Row 17, James Davison, who's making his first Cup Series start this season. He will start, and to his outside is Christopher Bell in the 95 car. Row 19 has 2 Toyotas, Daniel Suarez and Timmy Hill, and rounding out the field is BJ McLeod and Josh Bilicki. So now the question is, what can we expect from Pocono? Well, it's the same package as last year. However, Pocono did make a bit of an adjustment, adding the PJ1 to the track surface, a bit higher than usually the preferred lane will be right on the bottom. Well, they added the PJ1 just a bit higher, I want to say in the middle lane, middle to high lane, all over the track. So that's really all we can go by. I can't really say what we can expect in this race, mainly because Even though we have prior experience, teams have prior experiences on what the track might look like, you're still going in with zero practice. You either bring in what you got. I mean, just an example of drivers and teams having past experiences with the same package at the same track and still be horrible. For example, Homestead Miami Speedway, a track that had experience. Many drivers and teams use a blueprint from 2019 in order to bring it to 2020 more than likely, and some of them still missed the ball completely. So just because teams are going back to a track that they've had experience on, that doesn't mean that they're going to get a full grasp on how to attack this racetrack and not fall behind to its competitors. And the only thing I'm praying for really is just an alright race, just something similar to how the race was in the second one. Now, however, I do feel like the tempo of this race is going to be completely different compared to the tempo of the race on Sunday, because they're going there for the first time and they know that they have another race the following day. We could see one of two things. We could see either teams be more conservative and feel like, let's use this race as a test for Sunday, or we could see them go all out. All right, we bring in, go all out, attack, do not hold anything back, get max points, do whatever you can to win the race or get the best finish as you can. But one thing I will say, I feel like the tempo of the race is going to be completely different from Saturday to Sunday. Now, this could be the other way around, but I feel like many teams are going to be more conservative to this race because they're going to that track for the first time. More than likely, they're going to go with a more safe route compared to, let's say, on Sunday when they have experience with the track, when rubber's laid in, teams get more knowledge of at least a current package, or at least of today's style of racing and today's package. They're going to more than likely have a safe route for the Saturday race and then go on to Sunday's race with a much more aggressive agenda. And also you have to understand, it's a shorter race. Usually when we go to Pocono, it's a 400 miler. This time it's only 325 miles. That's a good amount of distance chopped off between this year's race and last year's race. Granted, it's a doubleheader, still a lot less miles than normal, so you're going to see the action pick up a lot quicker, a lot earlier on in the race. And it could make for a much more entertaining race compared to last year's race, at least the first race, because the first race of last year was not fun to watch. The second race was, but the first one was not fun to watch at all. I think you're going to see much more better, much more aggressive, but also don't be surprised if you see a much more conservative race with certain teams. Not every team is going to go with a safe route. Probably more than likely Joe Gibbs, Hendrick Motorsports, Team Penske, they're going to go with a much more aggressive route, while maybe other teams like Richard Childress might go with a safe route. Who knows? And that's, I think, is going to be the great unknown of not only this race, but last race. Who is going to enter that race? Who's going to enter today's race with a aggressive agenda? And who's going to enter today's race with a more conservative agenda? And that, I think, will be very interesting to see in this race today. As for the trucks, I have no idea what's going to happen in the truck race. Last year, I think, was not fun to watch. Hopefully, this year is much more fun to watch, at least much more appealing to watch. ARCA was better. I mean, it was better, surprisingly. I mean, let's be fair. A lot of us had very, very low hopes for Pocono after what we saw at Talladega. So I wasn't expecting much, and it delivered through. And I think that's how you have to approach a race like Pocono. Don't expect much. If you go in with low expectations, it's going to be much more easier to enjoy, I feel like. Or at least you'll be much more surprised on things actually happening. Who knows? But overall, who do I think is going to win this race? Man, I don't know, that's a tough one. But I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin, mainly because he is the defending winner. He's riding momentum, won at Homestead a couple of weeks ago. I got Denny Hamlin winning Saturday's race. However, I'm not going to say Sunday's race until tomorrow's episode, because then at least we can get some knowledge on who's good and who's not. But, for the truck race, who I think is going to win, I'm probably going to go with the Thor Sport driver. I got Johnny Sauter winning. I don't know. Again, we've had one race, Daytona. That's it. And you cannot use Daytona to project who is going to be good throughout the season. So I'm just guessing Johnny Sauter. All right. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But that's going to conclude this episode of MDK RaceDay. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, guys, take a look at the race times schedule for today's event. The Pocono 150 for the NASCAR RV Gainer Outdoor Truck Series takes place at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1. And then later on, the Pocono 325 for the NASCAR Cup Series on Fox. That takes place at 3:30. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like and tell me in the comment section down below, who do you think is going to win one of those two races or both races, and what do you think is going to happen in Saturday's races? Again, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. And until next time, my name is Jet from MDK. I will have another video later tonight following both races, and as well I will have a race day episode on Sunday morning and a victory stop episode recapping both events, so make sure you guys be on the lookout for that. Until next time, my name is Jet from MDK, and I'll see you guys next time.